So first of all, gents, don't underplay how important philanthropy is, and the fact that you both highlighted what you've done. I think it's a very common theme through families and family offices. So just a very quick one on myself. My name is Samy Dwek. I'm the founder of the Family Office Doctor. I started a consulting firm about 3 years ago, working with very large families in creating their family offices, reviewing setup of family offices. I myself come from a family business. I was born in England and grew up in a family business where from age 11, we were thrown into the deep end of having to be involved, go to the factory, and spend our summers working with dad in the company. And I managed to escape and go into finance. I don't know if that was a good or bad thing, time will tell. What's very interesting is I spent close to 20 years working for JP Morgan. So I like Marty's plug of, most of the companies he worked with were bought by JP Morgan or dealt with by JP Morgan. It was a great school. During my time in JP Morgan, I worked mostly in emerging markets, and working in emerging markets was interesting because I only worked with family business owners. And so I was surrounded by family businesses and family offices of one ilk or another. And there's 1,000 different definitions of family offices, and we won't go into that. What I wanted to talk about is a program that I'm launching with the University of Miami in March next year. It's called the Families in Business Executive Certificate. So during my time at JP Morgan, I built a program that I ran for over 10 years, put over 1,000 young adults through. And when I say young adults, I mean family members from the next generation, either involved in the family business or involved in the family philanthropy. And it's very important. So what we did is we focused on the core principles that were important to these family members of how do I deal with my father? How do I deal with transferring assets? Who wants to be involved in the business? How do you choose which family members should be in the family business? And that all comes down to family governance and communication. And I can't stress enough the importance of family communication, which some families feel they have, but the reality is it's always lacking, because we all come in with our biases, and what we think we hear and what we want to hear and what is being said can often be very different. So in collaboration with the University of Miami, we're launching in March next year, the Executive Certificate in Families and Business. Why the University of Miami? So the reason I chose the University of Miami is, one, I live in Florida, so it makes it easier for me. Two, they are number 6 globally. Thank you, Marty. They are number 6 globally in the US in terms of MBA school, 8th globally. They have a fantastic reputation. They sit strategically. When you look at the Americas, we are strategically placed between North America and South America. So in terms of getting family members to come, we are central. We're not too far from Asia. We're not too far from Europe. We are literally in the middle. When you look at who is doing something similar, honestly, there are 4 or 5 places out there, mostly in Europe. There's very little being done here in the United States. I wanted to create a course that was educational in nature. It's a pass-fail certificate. It's for family members, not family offices, not for family office professionals. It's for family members in the next generation, age between 25 and let's say 50, who are going to be going through the family transition. We are in a phase, and I've written about this, and you can look on my blog on the familyofficedoctor.com. I've written extensively about us being in this transitional phase of about $70 trillion transitioning from the baby boomers and the silent generation to the next gen. And that's going to happen over the next decade or so. So they're in the midst of transition. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot going on in their mind. Family communication is going to be critical. Family governance is going to be critical. But if we don't open their eyes from an educational perspective on what that is going to be one of the biggest issues. Hence the creation of this course. So think of this as a college module condensed into 3 days. So we're taking a 3-month course, condensing it into 3 days, because to do it over a period of 3 months, people aren't going to do it. Has to be in person. So this is an in-person certificate, 25 people, 1 person from any family. So there is a reason to my madness. Why 25 people? Why family members? Why one family member only? And the reasoning is very simple. We want open communication. We want these people to talk to one another. If you have multiple family members in the room, they may be more hesitant to speak openly. We want to create a forum of communication, a forum of a peer group where they can, in a way, have group therapy. What did you do? How did you deal with this issue? We're going to look at family governance. We're going to look at family communication. We're going to bring in a family in each time we run the course to come and talk about their situation. What happened to them? What family issues did they deal with? How did they overcome them? Did they sell the family business? Did they resolve the issues? What governance did they put in place? The idea is that over the 3-day period, we are going to give them the opportunity to get a one-on-one basics on family governance, professionalizing the way you run your family and your family business, so that for the next gen, we can perpetuate the family values and enable them to take this to the next step. So I want to thank Marty for allowing me to come and present this to you. I'm open to Q&A. This is, like I said, very different. It's not been really done on the US shores. This is predominantly been done, honestly, by INSEAD and IMD. I've worked with INSEAD directly. I've worked with Rafi Amit at Wharton, Randall Carlock at INSEAD, Ivan Landsberg. There are a number of, I would say, experts in the space. This is going to be really the first program of this sort on US shores for a global audience. So Marty, I don't want to take more time than I need to. I've tried to be succinct and to the point, so I leave it really to Q&A.
Great, Samy. So, by the way, I know the dean of UM. He's a Wharton guy, and they actually have a great practice there on M&A. I think there's a couple of ex-Goldman Sachs Latin American guys who are professors and teach their M&A classes there. So it's a solid program there. So can you talk a little bit about your experiences in the family office space? I think did you run the private bank in Palm Beach for JP Morgan? Is that what you did?
So I was part of the management team in EMEA. I built out the single family office business for the whole of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I built out most of their emerging business in Turkey, Israel, Greece, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Russia, Ukraine, and the CIS. Talk tons about Russia and Ukraine if you wanted, but this is not the forum. And then, yes, I came to Florida to help build out the Florida platform. But what I really look at that I had a lot of enjoyment was building out the family office practice between investment bank, asset management, private wealth, commercial bank for the whole of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So I looked after the top tier of family offices across that whole domain. Most of the families I dealt with needed a program like this. The issue was, Marty, is when banks run it, there's always that kind of in the back of your head conflict of interest of why is a bank doing it? Oh, they want my business. I wanted to do this from an educational standpoint. There's no skin in the game other than education. But this is not just turn up and get it. You have to participate. It's a pass fail. So I've lived in family office world for most of my life. I grew up in family office world. I grew up in a family business. I've seen family dysfunction. I've experienced it personally, and I work with families in distress.
Samy, so just a couple of quick questions. So sure. How do you convince family offices to become dispassionate about their business and just kind of take a step back and look at their business from a worldview rather than a family view? I can give a couple of examples, but I mean, obviously, sometimes the family makes a decision that might be good short term for the family, but or reputationally, but bad long term for the being able to sustain the business.
So let me rephrase. It's not about being dispassionate. I love people being passionate. I think passion actually is a driver of success. Okay. I think it's about professionalizing. The problem with, in my humble opinion, the issue with family offices is they're kind of put together. And I think you've heard me say this before. I don't like the term family office. I think it's a founder's office. It's the founder who creates the office for his money, with his business, his views, his ideals. That can't last generations, because when that founder is gone, the family members may not have all of the same ideals or outlook or expectations. And that can create actually dysfunction and destruction of that office, of that founder's office. If you want a true family office where it represents the entire family, if you professionalize and you include, then I think you actually increase the longevity for the family offices. So it's not about taking out the passion, it's about creating the opportunity for longevity. And that's what I try to focus on with the families I work with.
Yeah, I think there's a real schism between the mission of the founder and the mission of the children. And a lot of people don't really, and also, you know, our group has always had lots of, you know, fund managers and people promoting investments. And there's a schism there as well in terms of how they promote it, because, you know, obviously once the founder's gone, most everything goes into trust, and you have to learn how to navigate that aspect as well. But so I just want to give a quick example. There is a family that was in the book called In Search of Excellence, and it's a well-known book that everybody in business school used to have to read. And they were kind of like lauded because their plant burnt down in New England, and the owner decided to pay everybody's salary for a year, and he sold 5% of the company to a private equity firm. And he was not a great money manager, so over the years, the family continually missed their goals that they had set with the PE firm, and relegating more and more equity to that PE firm, until over time, and having to refinance that 50% of the company was owned by this PE firm over a 10 to 20 year period. And then everything went into litigation, family trusts were busted, you know, all kinds of things happened. So I think that the owner made a passionate decision at the time, or maybe he could have made a better decision and preserved some of the family wealth, right? So that's
so Marty, if I may, I'll give you another example that's even more frightening. So let's look at Cargill's, and especially in Texas, I hope everyone knows who Cargill's was, one of the biggest commodity traders in the world. Who owns Cargill's? Who became the majority owner? The in-laws, the Macmillans. The Macmillans came in and they own over 70% of Cargill's. The in-laws took over the family business, so the in-laws now own Cargill's for the majority of it. The Cargill's became a minority shareholder to the in-laws. So having family governance and putting things in place are absolutely box critical. Here's another one, Estee Lauder. And you look at the family values. These are things we look at. Look at Estee Lauder. Her two sons could not get on. And they sat down and they had a discussion. What's more important to you? Is it the family business, or is it family unity? What's important to you? The boys decided that family unity was more important than the business itself. So they listed the company and they sold it and they cashed out and became minority. Because for them, so there's all these different examples, different routes. There's not one single route to Rome. There's many roads that lead to Rome. It's choosing the right one for your family and making sure you don't go down that wrong route, and that the in-laws don't take it over, or that the private equity company doesn't take it over, or that you're forced to sell to keep family unity. This is why I wanted to create this course. It's not one single answer. There's many routes. It's about having those discussions, opening the family up to having those discussions. What are our family values? What is important to us? Is the family unity more important than the business, or is the business more important than the family? I can't answer that for every family. It's personal.
So I guess that, and probably the Lauder family, and again, I went, the Lauders went to Wharton, right? So the Lauder family are great examples of successful families and multi-generational, entrepreneurs who have all created significant wealth for each generation, right?
Right.
So, I guess maybe from a governance point of view, being able to set up, guidelines that help you understand what your long-term goals are significant.
And it starts with a discussion. What are my family values? And they did. That's how they got to that decision. It was a simple conversation. Am I family first or business first? They chose family first. That did not stop them continuing to create wealth. Not because you change direction and you focus on the unity of the family. That means I'm out of business and I'm not doing anything. I'm living off the money. They're not correlated.
Right. It's really interesting. And obviously there's a lot of, families that have gone in the wrong direction, with infighting versus, we had somebody so we did a family office event in Naples in probably 8 years ago, Naples, Florida. during the wine festival there, and we had a leading speaker talk about how a lawyer who structures a lot of these family agreements, and he says it's his goal with most families is to eliminate all the family members from a business except for one who will just become the charge to run the business. And he says it's not always the best thing to happen, but it's something that he knows how to navigate well, and feels that it puts the family on better footing.
So Barretto is a perfect example. 16th generation of family business. Barretto, Italian family, gun manufacturers. They had in their family governance, not written, spoken, it's been hundreds of years, where in every generation, the family chooses one family member to run the business. And that has been the reason for their success of maintaining the family unity and the family business being successful. They sit for 25 years and then they have to give up the seat, and then the family votes in the next member. It's fantastic. And I've seen a South American family do something different. Every generation creates their wealth. At the end of the generation, they give it all to charity, and the next generation has to create their own new wealth. And it's fantastic because it keeps them hungry, that each one has to generate and create. They don't live on the laurels of the past generation. Again, there's a number of different, there's so many stories out there. There's so many different ways to get there. And it starts with having the basic conversations. Again, comes down to communication. So that's why we're creating this program. We want to create a forum for family members to come, the next gen, because they may feel intimidated of having conversation with dad or mom, the patriarchs, the founders. Come, let's have that conversation. Let's enable them to approach parents in the right way, in a respectable manner, showing, that they care about their parents. They're not trying to disrespect them, but let's have those communications and those conversations.
Right. And I think, was it the Ambanis of India who decided to split their business? Right.
They were a little bit more contentious.
No, understood. But I'm just saying, at some point, you've got businesses started by families, and they have to try to understand, again, what their long-term goals are, where they want to be, and if they need to split their business. I mean, it's not like they became beggars, right? They're both super wealthy still, right? So, but it's really intriguing, and this program starts when again? It starts next semester.
It starts in March. It's March 5th to the 7th of March 2023. We limited to 25 spaces. So I will by all means share my email if people have families or family members that want to reserve a spot. That they reach out to me, and we'll get in contact with them and make sure they sign up.
I've got a question from the audience.
Yeah.
Is there a tuition fee? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Yes, it's a $5,000 fee because I need to cover the costs of and the professors and everything else. But when you think about any kind of module in college, it's an absolutely fair fee.
Yeah, it's too cheap. You need to make it $20,000 so that way people will think it has value.
Happy to increase the fee. I'll tell they'll be more than happy.
Is Ivan Landsberg teaching?
No, he's not. Ivan's a good friend, but he will not be teaching.
Right. And how are you promoting it outside of our events and other events?
So we're going to start promoting this in December time. We're going to go out to the press and through the family office networks that we know.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's so relevant. I mean, there really is every type of family office consultant under the sun when it comes to philanthropy and wellness and the light topics. But I think that the really hard topics of how to approach business and family office governance are not covered enough in depth. It's kind of like a nitty-gritty, sharp elbow sort of exercise you have to go through, and a lot of people, they're not comfortable with having to make decisions.
Right. Again, it's about communication, engendering communication, giving them a platform, and showing them that there are peers in the same situation, so that they can help one another.
Fantastic.